Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this very interesting little watch right here. This is the Citizen Eco Drive Octavia Perpetual Calendar signature. They'll just keep adding words to it, but I'll put the reference number down below. But anyways, this is a very interesting little watch, and one that I'm very happy to have gotten a chance to check out. I actually found this guy used on a forum, and figured, you know what the heck, let's go on ahead and do it. So, anyways, there you go. First off, before we go any further, let's get a couple of measurements on this little guy. Switching the millimeters here so we have a better sense of what's going on. Including the crown, we're at 46 millimeters. Without the crown, we are closer to 43.5. There you go. Your overall thickness of the watch, pardon me, is coming in at about 10.93 millimeters, which is not bad at all. The lug-to-lug distance on this little guy is coming in at, come here, let's measure you. Coming in right at around 50 millimeters lug to lug. And then finally, the lug width, if you want to put on a third-party band, is coming in at about 22. Should actually do that on the camera frame, you think? Anyway, coming in around 22, so there you go. And then actually, let's do a couple of size comparisons real quick. Here it is against the Citizen BM8180 wristwatch, which is one of my very favorite wristwatches Citizen makes, and it's a much less expensive one overall. So there you go. Here it is against the Omega Aquaterra Seamaster, and here it is against the Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean here, which is another relatively large watch, although this one is much thicker. So anyways, there you go. Let's go on ahead. Oh, and then one final other note. Citizen Signature lineup has a bunch of watches. I've already reviewed one of them, the Citizen Perpetual Diver, which is just an incredible watch and one that I am head over heels in love with. And so, yeah, if you're interested in this lineup, also check that review. So anyways, let's go ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly. This very interesting little wristwatch here. First off, on the good side, this is a watch with a sapphire crystal on it. You can barely see the sapphire crystal in most lights, but there you can see there's a little bit of reflection off the top of it. This is because it's nicely coated. It's beautifully anti-reflective, and that is absolutely a wonderful thing. I like that very much. Next thing, the links on this, on the bracelet here, if we look at the proper side, yeah, the links are a screw-down link here. I'll zoom in so you can see them more carefully. Yeah, those are screw-down links, and that's a beautiful thing. This is just absolutely a pleasure to adjust. You can do it at home with a sufficiently small screwdriver, and because the screw down links just go all the way through, as you're sizing it up, you don't have to tighten everything down in order for this to fit on your wrist. So that's great. I loved adjusting that. Next thing, this guy has solar charging. It says right here, Eco Drive, and what that means is that behind this little mesh in the middle there, and you can actually see it in strong light. Here, I'll add some extra light to the subject here from a flashlight. You can see underneath there is a solar panel going on. And what that means is that this will take on light from the sun. And you get about 1 minute of sunlight will fuel the watch for the day, is what they're saying. And then 7 hours of direct sunlight will get you from dead to full. And actually, I can confirm this. I actually had this guy die on me because it doesn't have power. We'll talk about that in a bit here. But the thing is, this was shortly after I'd got it, before I did much charging. But I put it out on the deck. It got some beautiful sunlight for a little while, and it sprung right back to health. So there you go. That's a beautiful thing. Next thing, this has a very nice power reserve. On most mechanical watches, you'll get something closer to like 48 or 50 hours, meaning you take it off the wrist, it'll stop running after, a couple of days, maybe 5 or 10 days at most. This guy can go around 2 or 3 years very easily without seeing the sun. And it actually has a low power indicator, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But basically, the second hand starts jumping every 2 seconds rather than every 1. And so that's a useful little function. So you know, okay, you better get this guy outside. So that's good. Next thing, this has a perpetual calendar. You can see on here, it's the 7th right now. And the thing is, on most watches, if the month has fewer than 31 days, you will actually have to reset the date at the start of the next month, because it'll go, instead of to the 1st after the 30th, it'll go to the 31st, and there's not, for instance, I guess, February 31st. Heck, there's not even February 30th most years. But anyways, That is actually, it is never a February 30th. I digress. Unless it's like a mega leap year, that's not a thing. Anyways, this will automatically keep track of that. When you set this guy, you set what month it is, and it will continually keep track of that. And you also set the leap year as well. So that's, whether it is a leap year or not, that is. So that's great. It means that whatever time it is, it's going to be accurate, or whatever date it is, that is, it'll be accurate on the wristwatch. That's awesome. That's awesome. If you have a bunch of oxes, that's awesome. Anyways, I digress. And so basically, you only need to adjust this watch for daylight savings time. And that's not built into it because, well, it doesn't know where you live, whether you do DST, etc. So there you go. Then finally, on the good side, this is actually, the hands on this guy are well loomed. I'm going to use a flashlight here off camera. I'm going to charge that loom up pretty good for you so you can get a really good sense. When I shield this, you can see that the hour hand and the minute hand are very nicely loomed. And that loom actually will last all night. I mean, you can look at this guy, 4 a.m., 6 a.m., 8 a.m., and it's still going to be glowing brightly, even just from sunlight exposure the day before. That's great. It's really nice to see nice loom on a higher end watch, especially in a dress watch sort of thing, a dressy watch, and so I like that very much. And so all of that to me is the good here, is that it is well loomed. It has, at least on the hands, that is. It has a perpetual calendar, which is always a nice thing. Great power reserve. It's solar charging, and it has screw down links. A very reasonably comfortable bracelet, by the way, nice rounding and whatnot. And it has a sapphire crystal that is just really incredible. On the great side to me is actually the finishing here. I mean, Citizen has really done a great job with this watch, making it beautiful. I always say that Citizen is, in terms of finishing, the best value in the watch world 100%, because they have finished this watch for like, $600, better than the Swiss people would for like $2,000. I mean, a lot of quartz watches feel undermade. They feel like toy-like. You feel like, oh, look, it's a quartz watch. Not super well finished. This guy, however, really is. This does not feel underdone at all. Not only is the weight substantial on it, which is good, but you also see, for instance, just look at the dial. Look at the beautifulness of that little, the pattern that's engraved onto the dial. Well, I don't know, it may be printed, whatever it is. That's really nice, and you can see they didn't print the Citizen onto that pattern. They raised it up above that pattern. That's great. The hands on this guy are just beautifully polished, and you can see there's a little bit of a bend to the hands, which helps for readability in some lighting situations. You can see each one of the indices is beautifully polished. In fact, you can see my mouth going down there in the corner because these are so well mirror polished. In fact, these are so polished it almost becomes a problem. We'll talk about that later, but that's really impressive. You can see that the sides of the bracelet are polished. You get your mid-links in here that are beautifully polished, which contrast with a very fine brushing on the rest of the watch there. You can see you get nice variation between the polished and unpolished portions here and there and everywhere. I mean, this is a really nicely finished watch. And I have to say, I appreciate that very much. Add in things like the screw-down links, the excellent bracelet. The clasp on this guy is really nice, too. You can see a little dirty, but, it works. Here, I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see it a bit better. But it works really well. This is a great little... And, frankly, I think that this is a beautifully made watch. Citizen has shown very clearly in this watch that they give a crap, and I love seeing that. And so to me, what's great about this 100% is that quality of that finishing, the polishing, the brushing, circumferential brushing on the bezel here, absolutely freaking great. On the bad side, there are some issues here. I mean, to start with, it's a little bit on the heavier side. If we bring our little scale into play here, and it ever starts up. Come on, scale. There we go. This guy is coming in at 5.15 ounces, adjusted for my relatively small 6.75-inch wrists. It's a little bit on the heavy side. Not a big deal, and, that does give a feeling of quality. But, yeah, that's definitely a thing. Next thing, this guy has no power reserve indicator anywhere, and in fact, there's no way to even get the power reserve off of this guy. It's not the case that, for instance, pressing this button would give you power or something like that. What this means is that as I was resetting things, I had to reset the perpetual calendar at one point. I'll come back to that in a bit there. But this went from absolutely fine to low power because I was using the reset motor a great deal in having to scroll through the date thing many times. And so this went from ticking along just fine to completely dead during the course of that process because I didn't realize that it was already very close to being out of power. This would be a great thing, for instance, if you just do like press this little button in while the crown is pushed in, you'll get a power reserve rating as, a proportion of the dial or something. That would be great, but this doesn't have that at all, and especially for a solar watch where you're going to need to charge it sooner or later, well, that's something they should have in here. Next thing, this is pricey. This is a $500 or $600 quartz watch. For a lot of people, that's going to be a problem. For some of us, that's not a disclaimer. This is a much more expensive quartz watch still, but still, that's a fair bit of money. I mean, it has pretty much everything you'd want in a quartz watch, a couple of exceptions, but still, that's some money. Next thing, the indices on this guy are not loomed. As you recall here, the hands are loomed, but the rest of the watch has no loom. And so what that means is that as you're looking at this, say in the middle of the night, it's impossible to tell exactly what hour it is. You can kind of get the general sense by looking at the orientation of the hand. And you know what? A lot of people get away making watches without indices. Those drive me nuts too. But the thing is, it's useful information. It's helpful to know what the actual hour is, even overnight. And so, come on, guys, just do that. But the thing is, it's more important than just, okay, this would be a little better without it because, well, it's really important to have that little extra bit of legibility. I'll show you a contrast here. This right here is the Omega Planet Ocean. It's a Seamaster Planet Ocean, prior generation. The thing is, I'm going to put a little bit of darkness into the situation. What you can see here is that when you add some darkness, what starts to disappear are the individual indices. You can still vaguely see them here, but after a while, those go away, and what you start to see instead are the little white dots behind the indices. Those are actually loom on the Omega here. I'll charge them on up so you can kind of see, but, yeah, so those are actually loom dots, which is great. But more importantly, even in darker situations, those little white dots will show up even when these guys, the indices, disappear. Whereas on this guy, unfortunately, this polishing is so good that the moment that there is true darkness that is behind you, for instance, the indices become pretty much unreadable. And because these little white dots don't really show you much of anything. And that's, well, that's just not great, I gotta say. That legibility issue was more often than I expected kind of a problem here. The little tiny loom dots are a beautiful thing, both so that you get loom and so that you get legibility. There's a reason that these are on everything Seiko does, damn near. The Rolex, everything with loom, that is. The Rolex Date just has them, etc. It's a nice little detail, and they were missing that here. This polishing is great, but it can be a double-edged sword. Then finally, on the bad side, I'm not a big fan of these numbers here. This actually used to be a screw-shaped pattern here, which was, let's put it this way, probably inspired by the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. And those little fake screws there disappeared at one point in time in this model's history. I imagine that AP probably slapped them around a little bit, and they decided, you know what, let's skip that one. But putting the numbers here is just like weird. I'm sorry, guys, I know what 30 is. Why are you writing that in the bezel here? I would have almost preferred the bezel to be unnumbered or just sectioned off as it is here. It doesn't work for me at all, and so I'm not a big fan of that. And so to me, all of that is the bad here, is that the numbers on this guy are very, very weird. It's got relatively poor legibility in dark situations because these indices are so damn reflective that you just completely lose track of them when there's any darkness and there's no loom dot or anything. The indices are not loomed at all, which is frustrating. It's a fair amount of money. There's no power reserve on here, which makes it very easy to, especially if you're setting calendars and whatnot, to lose the power, and it is a little bit on the heavy side. On the ugly front, there were a couple of different uglies, unfortunately. The first one is the bracelet. I mentioned that the bracelet is very comfortable, and indeed it is, but the thing is there is no means of adjusting this bracelet at all. The only way to adjust this bracelet is by adding or subtracting links. And so what that means is, although they give you a half link, you are basically up a creek if your wrist swells up, for instance. Or, if you just decide, backing on a couple of pounds here. I need a little bit more. Guess what? You're getting out the screwdrivers and the baggie of spare links because there's no micro adjust. Considering that so many other people are offering something like this guy, this is the quick adjust system that Omega's doing, where you can just slide this back and forth to get a little bit more or a little less without a tool. That's a beautiful thing. And even lots of other companies, even on the lower end, are starting to do that. And come on, Citizen, it's time. Even the Rolex Quick Link system is incredible. It gives you just a little bit of an option there. But, that's been a thing for a while. Next thing, Citizen. Unfortunately, Citizen's a great brand. I love their stuff, and I support them very much. But the thing is, the moment that you open the box on a brand new Citizen, half the retail price just goes kaboom. If you buy a watch brand new and then you sell it brand new on a forum, you've lost a bunch of money. This is a $600, just to illustrate this point, this is a $600 watch at retail price. By the way, do not buy this at retail. Work with an AD who can help you out a little bit, but the moment that I was able to buy this on a forum very easily for $300. That's a pretty substantial drop. So do not look at this watch as an investment. And if you buy this at retail and there's a chance that you just sell it, just go ahead and run a bath because you're going to be taking one. So that's an unfortunate aspect of Citizen, particularly on the higher end. No one really cares for an 80, $100 Citizen there, but for $600, you're losing a lot of money by opening the box the first time. Work with an AD. Then finally, on the ugly side, and the biggest issue I have with this is that the user interface on this is absolutely awful. What I mean by that is that this watch nominally has an independent hour hand. What you should be able to do is to pull the crown out here. And then I think that what you do, and I literally have tried to practice this, and so you pull the crown out, I think, to the second position, then you press this in, and that should allow you to change the hour hand. No. I don't actually know what that just did. But the thing is, look, I consider myself to be a reasonably intelligent guy. I've handled a couple of watches here and there. But the thing is, even sitting there with the manual open, I found myself continuing to put this watch in weird modes, like I've just apparently done here. Yeah, let me try and tap that again and see if it goes back to normal working mode. But there we go. Yeah, I think it's going back to... Yeah. No, it's back there again. What the heck are you even doing there, freaking watch? Come on. Oh, crap. I reset the perpetual calendar again. No, don't. Anyways, I digress. The thing is, even trying to do this in preparation for the review, I was not... Oh, wait, did I just do it? No. Maybe? No. I don't even know what this watch is doing right now, so we're just going to set it down and hope that it's doing things properly. Oh! Okay. Now it's jumping. Oh, my God, guys. Look, okay, this should underscore my point right here. Seriously, I trying to do the independent hour hand thing for this freaking review, I kept screwing up and resetting the perpetual calendar, and now it's doing this thing again, where it's suddenly doing the jump hand thing, where it's jumping two at a time here. Okay, now it's back in... No, it doesn't have the accurate time, but at the very least, the watch is running again, and the date is changed. Oh, shoot me. The thing is, this is a terrible user interface experience. That's at the very, very least what's going on here. I'm sorry, I'm going a little crazy here, but there is only one adjustment that you should need to make on this freaking watch, and that is to move the hour hand front and back. Maybe once every year or so, you need to change the second hand, because it's a quartz watch. It's very accurate. That's a beautiful thing. But that's the only thing you need to freaking do. And let's take, for instance, a reasonably designed watch, this Aquaterra here, and you pull the crown out to the first position, and what do? You move the freaking hour hand, and you don't lose the accuracy, you don't lose anything, and then you screw it back in and you're good to go. Whereas on this guy, you're pressing buttons, you're accidentally resetting the perpetual calendar. Freaking shoot me. This is the main function of the crown, is to change the hour on this watch. Why would change the perpetual freaking calendar be an issue here? This should not require 15 steps in a user manual to change the hour, and similarly, it shouldn't let you do the complicated thing very, very quickly. Basically, Citizen's user experience team had exactly one job, which is to make this watch easy to change the freaking time. Not even the date, not even the perpetual calendar, just to change the time. And they completely botched it. And it makes me feel like nobody at Citizen actually wore this watch, or they never gave it to somebody who didn't work as an engineer for Citizen, who didn't already know all of these things. And so as a result, they've shipped this watch that has this absolutely horrible user interface experience. They need to think this through, and they didn't. And so ultimately, here we are with a watch reviewer, somebody who handles watches very, very regularly, completely unable to use your damn independent hour hand because it's just so badly designed. So that's the ugly here, is that the user interface is just freaking awful. You take a huge hit buying Citizen at retail price, especially if they, can't figure out how to set the damn calendar. And it's got a completely unadjustable bracelet, which, guys, it's 2018. You need to do better. So ultimately, my final conclusion on this watch is that I expected to love this watch. I really, really did, because it checks a lot of boxes for me. It's a great quartz watch, and I love great quartz watches. It's a solar watch, which is great. Perpetual calendar. It's beautifully finished. It has an independent hour hand. And I mean, what's not to love there? Seriously. And this is proof that absolutely, when it comes to high-end watch finishing, Japan is the land of value. This is really, really, really well done in terms of finishing, even if it's not well done in terms of some other things. But ultimately, those other things made me really dislike this guy. It feels mostly like it was designed by somebody who never really wore it, who never understood that, maybe I'm going to need to change the hour. I should make that easy. The bracelet, it needs to adjust. Again, they should have figured this out. The legibility. I mean, come on, wearing this for 10 minutes at nighttime in Tokyo, they should have realized, crap, we need lume dots or something like that. And the user interface, oh my God. I mean, I know that Citizen has user interface flaws. I commented on this in the Perpetual Diver review, the Citizen Skyhawk review, I mean, a bunch of different things. But guys, you have one job here. If a watch that needs one adjustment, and you've completely made it opaque. So although I love Citizen very much, and I love the idea of this watch, and it is absolutely beautiful. In practice, because of these kind of stupid issues here, I have zero desire to keep wearing this. I mean, it has so much potential. This could be a really, really, really great quartz option for a lot of people, but ultimately, it just ended up being a letdown. So I hope that Citizen cleans house at the user interface people, and that these kinds of stupid choices don't make it into future models, because, right now, this feels like a perpetual problem of theirs, and honestly, until you do, you should probably, you should probably spend your money elsewhere. Anyways, I hope you found this interesting. God, this watch makes me feel so stupid. But there you go. Maybe I'm just stupid, or maybe they, I don't know. You be the call. You be the call. Have yourselves a good one, everybody. Bye now.